miracles.
This is unbelievable. I'm speechless.
I mean, it's not even close. This was the match of the year, and this the move of the year. Look at the match situation. Hikaru Nakamura and Alireza Firouzja, Speed Chess Championship semi-finals, and they couldn't be split in normal time. Went to an Armageddon. This is the first of 4 games. What an incredible game and move to come. And then I'll bring you the match result as well. One of them's going to face Magnus Carlsen. Hikaru gets white in this game, d4 on the board. Both players were winning with both colours, so it does not matter who's got the white pieces. It is just bonkers from the start. King's Indian defence from Alireza. They're live in the studios in London, opposite each other, but playing on computers. Clock times are on the left. This is bullet chess with 1 second back per move. All mainline stuff so far, but now Hikaru doesn't castle, which is mainline. Bishop e3 sometimes played. He takes on e5. Now this has a reputation for being a little bit boring. You're not quite squeezing the most from the position. Queen's leaving the board. Boo, not what we want to see. If you want a bit more of an exciting way to play the King's Indian defence, by the way, I mentioned it yesterday. Have a look at Lotus Chess. The link is in the description. There's a system there. I play with white, and boy, the results I've had with it. You just attack black on the king side, which normally they're doing to you. Download it, try it for complete free, and give it a test drive. Just teaches you all the moves. So good. Let's jump to this game once more, because the knight centralizes and main line is taking. You give white the big center, but you start to undermine it with pawn to c ships. Not this game. Alireza drops back. You can't take. The knight's covered, but he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces stuck on the Etienne back row there. Not ideal. Check is played, and he cedes the bishop bear. Normally grandmasters want to hold on to these guys, right? They zoom and laser in all directions, so powerful as a duo. So it is advantage Hikaru. He stacks them up. Knight fighting for the dark square, and this pawn marches onwards. Gains space, takes away a square. Gains a square for some minor pieces. Rook d8. That's where rooks belong on open lanes. Now the pawn wants to advance. Knight centralizing, and it's difficult to live with that one. So it is chopped, and with a bishop. Giving back the bishops. Maybe it's a tactic for bullet chess. Hikaru wants the tricky knight. Now we see the pawn advance, making room for the knight maneuver. And before you can say, hey Grok, show us Magnus and Hikaru wearing bikinis, I do apologise if you're easily offended. Some things just can't be unseen. I came across this one whilst scrolling X. Just unreal scenes here. Some people got too much time on their hands. Now we get the knight rotating to c7, and Hikaru goes for a diagonal bomb cloud thingy, connects those rooks, and that's pertinent. Because Alireza pushes this rook pawn like a boss, trying to undermine this chain over here. So of course you don't take. We see the king scurrying over. Rook's doubling now. Knight d2. Heading for the promised land, a theatre near you soon. This is the response, and now king b2. Not the best apparently, but let's ignore that. Human chess, bullet chess, knight b5. And even if you wanted to take, which probably isn't a good move, you really can't do it tactically, because the moment the bishop moves, the pawn marches, the check is unleashed. We're in the back cave here. Analysis, board grayed out, didn't happen. Instead, the knight hops forward, takes on b4, pawn recaptures, and the best way for black to play is send all 4 rooks into the blender here, and then play the minor piece endgame, and it's roughly level. But this was played immediately. Looks so natural, but it's not actually the best, because now takes, and you keep a pair of rooks on the board, which massively favours white for reasons I don't fully understand, that I didn't dive deeply into. Turns out this rook can get at this king a bit more than this rook can at this king. King stepped up now, avoiding here with check and winning the pawn. So this was played anyway attacking, but not with tempo. Now Hikaru's got time to defend. G5 clamps on some dark squares. H3, H5, some pawn pushes, change of the structure. Knight B2, Houfi and Keto's their knight. Absolutely horrible, but it's all based on plans. This pawn's no longer attacked now, so Hikaru can move the rook. Bishop E5, Rook H1. Really simple but effective plans, especially in speed chess. Let's pick up a loose pawn, but Alireza's astute. You know, they're simple moves when you see them in a slow playback, but not easy to see this in real time, fast mode. They're so good, these guys. Rook C1 hints at rook takes knight, and then taking the rook here because the knight's defending. I mean, there are some tactics for black that mean it doesn't work perfectly, but Alireza doesn't want to find out. He just gets out of there. Now Rook H1 back. Rook E8 goes for the central pawn, and Hikaru just blunders with the move. Knight C4. And he just sheds a central pawn. I mean, you could take, and rook takes, and knight D6, hitting rook and hitting pawn, but it doesn't work. Rook just drops back or counterattacks on F2. You've just shed a clean pawn. So Rook F1 miserably covers this pawn now. Knight back into C3. Now we see this knight hit D6. And it's the reason that Hikaru is still very much in the game, even marginally better, despite being a pawn down. This is a monster, an octopus that Stocktopus can be proud of. And the best move is the really counterintuitive Rook B8, passively covering the pawn. Who wants to play that? Alireza plays Rook E7, covers the pawn, stays on the open file, it's where they belong, the rooks, but it's a big mistake, because Hikaru now plays the switcheroo. Rook A1, and the threat is Rook A8 check. King's only got the G7 square, and when it lands on G7, you get Knight F5 check, and winning this rook. So that's why Rook E6 responding to the threat. You could take Bishop F5 strong, so many good moves. Hikaru checks, also the top idea. Do not step to G7. Now you run into the check once more. And if you start stepping to light squares with that king, you're in more pain. So let's just pause it there. King E7 was played, of course. Check. King D7. And the clean winning idea here is Rook B8, going for this pawn. And black is in a world of pain. Losing the game should be. Bishop F5's on the way. But Hikaru plays Bishop F5, the most human move in the world. Who's not playing that? Win the exchange, lovely jubbly, game over. But there's this unreal response from Alireza, resource. This isn't the move of the year thing though, the greatest one we've seen in a long time. This is just the starter, if you will. Pawn D3. And out of nowhere, there's this incredible counterplay. Knight supporting the queening square. So if you take with check, as you were threatening to do, pawn recaptures, and you can't stop the pawn. You know, king can't get over. Rook can get around, but not in time. You lose a rook, and then you're a minor piece down. So you can't go taking here. And meantime, can't remember all the lines I was looking at, but if you somehow try, say, bishop takes on G4 maybe to cover the square. Okay, D2's okay here. But the point I'm trying to make, there's also a threat here of rook takes on D6, eliminating the knight, and then taking this rook here. Okay, not right now while you're in a pin. So sorry, this was the line. Bishop takes D3. This doesn't work because a rook takes D6, and then takes, and king takes here. Getting all muddled up. So that's why the rook moves away. You could have also come to B8, but you had to respond to this threat. D2 on the board, of course. Still no time to be taking. So bishop takes on G4. First after a check, sorry. Now bishop takes on G4. You know, you didn't have time to pick up the rook. You have to cover the queen. And a massive blunder's now played. Best is actually queening. But Alireza plays the shocker. Bishop E7. Now why is it so horrendous? You've just left the protection of the knight. White can simply munch a knight, free knight, that's it, that's all to be said. But it's missed. King c2 slides on past. Mutual blindness, but they are scrambling. I mean, look at the time situation, it's ridiculous. So no judgment, could have even been a pre-move or something. Now we see takes here, pawn recaptures, and best is actually queening immediately. But this was played. Takes. And the difference here is that when this queening comes, you don't actually manage to now take on d6 with a check and a king here, which would have happened in the other line. So white gets a move. Hikaru snaffles another pawn. He's 2 connected pawns ahead. Game over, right? No. Watch the fight that now ensues. Absolute dogfight. One of the most unreal defensive displays from Alireza I've ever seen in chess ever. I mean, it's just hopeless, surely. Like, every top player is converting this with their eyes closed. G5, C3, and amazingly in this position here, there's only one clean winning.
The only winning move.
It's the only move?
The only winning move.
It's the only move?
The only winning move.
It's the only...
And it's pawn b6. And the idea is that after pawn c2, this pawn now supports this square, so the rook can swing behind, takes, and the 2 connected pawns should take it home. But b6 isn't found. Hikaru plays pawn g6, and it looks absolutely crushing, except there's this astonishing resource. Now let's just show what happens if you just push and push and push and start the race. Well, black gets checkmated, so you're losing that race. So that's why the straight push doesn't work. But Alireza comes up with rook f4 check.
What? Hikaru, he's blundered a check and the black pawn promotes. The black pawn promotes with a check. Miracles.
I mean, it's just absolute meltdown across the entire studio, the audience, everyone watching. What an incredible resource. Hikaru didn't capture the rook. If he did, this is the point. You now queen with check. Game rumbles on from here. Apparently a draw, but it looks really scary for white. The piece is a bit split. Equally, black has to be careful, right? You can easily imagine losing it. Both results possible. So that's what would happen if you take. So Hikaru should actually take. Sorry, is it Hikaru? Yes, Hikaru, drawn position. He sidesteps with the king here, however. But one thing I did check. What if he sidesteps here and stops rook g4 coming behind the pawn, which we see in the game? And after the pawn's queen, there's no queening with check. Check, you're mated. No, black is winning in this line, because you block the mating threat and counter check. How cool is this line? Black mops up and wins the game. So king g5 wasn't working. King e5 was tried. Takes was better, as I said. c2 in the game. Rook b8 check. King goes and the pawn's marching. 1 square away from queening, so don't take the rook. If you queen immediately, that should be a draw. So the winning move is rook g4, swinging behind the pawn. And now when Hikaru queens, you can take, rook takes, you make your queen, and we reach this fascinating imbalance, queen against rook and 2 pawns. Let's see how it goes. Checking all over the place. What's Hikaru hoping for here? Well, he's got a hope for a draw. We're not going to start pausing on every swing of the bar. Long story short, Alireza's trying to work some magic here. Find a position where either the pawn can be taken or the rook gets too far from the king and gets picked up with some kind of check. So this is what Hikaru is holding on for. Is there going to be a fortress here? It's an incredible finish to this match. Armageddon it goes to, then this incredible drama and tension. How is Hikaru not just winning this game? Why are we even here? Let's back it up. Because in this position, white can hold on and carry on trying to draw. Apparently the all-powerful engine says it is drawn. if you just keep shuffling with the king. The pawn's doing a really good job on this 5th rank, so it would seem. But this was played. Suddenly it's dead lost because we get the king stepping in, rook moving away and hitting the queen, and now this horrible pin. And when Hikaru sidesteps it, he resigns the game because this is now a checkmate in 1. You don't even have to take the f-pawn with the king. Absolutely incredible. And if instead of stepping the king, you'd done this, then I guess, do we march here? No, that would not be winning. No, it is winning. Getting a bit confused now. But it looks good. But maybe it gets weird. So king h7, I'm being told by the all-powerful engine. And then you make the checkmate once the king's forced over here. Fine, much cleaner. 104 moves. Final position. Alireza won this Armageddon game. Sorry, not Armageddon. It was a kind of playoff thing, the first of 4. And then he ultimately went on to hold his own in the remaining 3. Just scrape through past Hikaru. What a match. What a move. Hope you enjoyed. Do subscribe. I'll be back later with the Magnus final. And have a look at the video on screen if you want to see what they're calling the game of the year. Unreal scenes over in Tata Steel. Thanks a lot for watching and see you soon. Cheers.